Hi everybody. Don't know how many people are live here, but it's a real pleasure to be broadcast live throughout the Netherlands and the rest of the world. So my name's Tom. I'm the founder of AskPorter, and I'll come on to a little bit of background about me in a minute. But I'm just going to walk you through just kind of a nice opportunity for me to share a little bit about what we're doing as a company at AskPorter, but also what we see the future of property and facility management to be like, and specifically what we see the opportunities for AI in the space to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of walk you through step by step. I'm going to give you a little intro to me, a little intro to AskPorter as a company. Then I'm going to touch on the challenges that we see day to day facing in property management by our clients, but also kind of the broader market as well. And then talk about what we, having kind of been immersed in this industry for a while now, for a good kind of 2 to 3 years, what we see the future, what we see the big trends, and how practically AI can really drive change and drive efficiency across the business. So to start off, myself, my background, is twofold really. So I started off my career in digital strategy. So I worked agency side for WPP. I know we've got quite a number of KPMG people on here. Did a lot of work with KPMG back in the day. A lot of digital strategy work. In fact, the company that I was working with was consulting on your global brand. Did that for a while. Did an entrepreneur diploma at UC Berkeley. Worked with Arm Holdings. In fact, actually, it was about 3 years ago when I had the idea for AskPorter. I was doing an AI project for DHL Logistics. So we were working on their chatbot and an optimization of their logistics backend. Really, this kind of technology felt like a perfect technology for property management. And the reason why that kind of triggered in my mind is historically, my family's been involved in property management. So my family has a couple of mixed use units. I say a couple, I mean about 40 mixed use units just north of London. And we felt very much that property management, being 90% of it done over the phone, email, etc., was kind of ripe, but not only conversational AI, but also some real kind of clever AI in the back end, which I'll kind of come on to in a moment. So our mission at AskPorter is pretty straightforward. Our mission is to make managing spaces as simple as it can possibly be. So really kind of one click simple. Now, there's kind of that mission kind of breaks down into two elements. The first being to really streamline and improve the efficiency that is involved in managing these spaces. So we look at how AI can really drive those efficiencies, save minutes, save hours of people's jobs who are managing these buildings, but also save hours and minutes of the people of the jobs who actually are on site in these buildings. And also conversely, on the other side, to really improve, we see a real opportunity for AI, to leverage AI in improving the customer experience of the people in the building. So when I say customer, I mean the tenants. So AskPorter, very top level, and we'll dive into kind of the nitty gritty of how we use AI, etc. in a minute. But very top level, we are an AI property and facility management platform. Now, what that means, to break that down, is we have an AI assistant we call Porter. Porter, we've trained to be a property manager in any building, so you can drop them into a commercial building, an office. You can drop Porter into a residential unit. You can drop Porter into a retail unit. It doesn't really matter. We've got use cases for all of those. It's Porter's job to be available via any channel. So we've got SMS, we've got WhatsApp, we've got voice services, we've got phone, we've got email. It doesn't really matter how you want to get in touch with Porter as an assistant. It's Porter's job to essentially welcome you, say, hey, how can I help? Porter will then help triage maintenance issues, as an example. Porter will then help give you access to additional types of services that you might need. So Porter is really an assistant, not just for the manager, but also for the people in the buildings. At the back of this, and this is really where the smart stuff happens, and we use a lot of machine learning, is in our AI workflow management. So once kind of Porter, to give you a kind of a tangible example here, once Porter, let's say you're reporting a broken light. Come in, you say, hey, Porter, talk to Porter. You say, hey, it's a broken light. Porter will then help you try and fix the issue. If you can't fix the issue, what Porter will then do is flag up as an inbound reported issue. It's then the stuff that happens after this. It's the right, as an agent, I know this is an issue. How do I get this resolved? It's all those little conversations that need to happen. For example, okay, we need to engage a contractor, a supplier, let's say the electrician to fit the light. We need to send a message to the contractor, let the contractor know the job's available, send him the work order. And then once it comes time to fix that job or fix the light, Porter then has the conversation with the contractor to let them know or ask them to check in, complete the work. They will then go back to the tenant, check the work's done. They'll go back to the landlord to check everything was done to their satisfaction. Porter will then go back to the contractor to request the invoice. All these little conversations are being taken care of. So it's a lot more than just the initial chat. It's all those different activities that need to happen in order to get the job done. That's just kind of one example, and I'll go through a few more in a minute. But firstly, I just wanted to very quickly touch on the challenges in property management, property and facilities management. I don't know, some of you may be in this space, some of you may not be in this space. But there's kind of 6 real core challenges at the moment. Property management and facility management has been unloved for a while as a sector. It hasn't got a unified platform. There are loads of different applications and different digital products out there that do parts of the job. And that's very confusing for a manager or an agent on the ground. And I'll show you just the sheer variety of different types of platforms in a second. It's resource intensive. It's very human resource intensive. Partly, again, because it's been unloved by technology, but 90% of it, as I said before, is all still done over the phone. It's very conversation based. A lot of the information and knowledge is lost day to day. It's a very poorly automated business industry as it stands at the moment, and this obviously means there are low margins. There are also incredibly high staff turnover costs. Property and facility management on the whole, I think the average lifespan of a property manager, not lifespan, but career lifespan of a property manager is about 8 months. So it's incredibly low. And it's a pretty thankless job. If you imagine, people tend to be calling up with real problems, and often it's not the manager's fault in dealing with them. As a whole, property management really struggles with the loss of knowledge. Every time someone turns over, these 8 months, all the knowledge about these buildings is pretty much lost. So this is kind of how spaces are managed currently. Hope you can see that. I'll walk you through this very quickly. So on the left is all those different tools and applications and digital products that are required in order to manage buildings, whether it's residential, whether it's commercial, whatever it is. Referencing people. There's an awful lot that goes on in property management. Referencing CRM, just managing the people in the buildings themselves, and the landlords and the contractors. Just managing people is a bit of a nightmare. Collecting rent. You've got to do accounting. You've got to reconcile all those rent collections. You've got to take other ad hoc payments for maintenance, etc. And you've got to actually do the maintenance, get the contractor in, do all that kind of stuff. Inspections, inventory checks. This list goes on. There's an awful lot of tasks and jobs that need to be done and related to physical space. Now, at the moment, it's done in a very piecemeal way. Obviously, down the right, you can see all the different types of properties. That's just an example. And then on a day-to-day basis, an agent or a property manager or facility manager will have to deal with any number of different conversations backwards and forwards. Let's say a tenant or a customer reports an issue. They'll have to obviously triage that, take that on, then they'll have to go back to the owner to check it's okay if they can, actually do that work. And then I'll have to go to the supplier and engage that supplier all the time, logging this information back and forward to the CRM. And then they need to go to the customer and let the customer know that, okay, the supplier is going to be round in about 10, 20 minutes. all this kind of stuff. And now on top of that, what we're seeing is IoT devices. Every single one of these IoT devices in the built environment, whether they're air quality sensors or lift sensors, they all have their own platforms. So because there is no single platform for these managers to look at, it gets incredibly complex. They've got different platforms for different things, and just to do their job is incredibly taxing. So this is how we believe spaces will be managed in the future at AskPorter. We believe that digital assistants like Porter are going to be doing 90% of the heavy lifting. So, and I'll come on to how we leverage AI to be able to achieve that 90% of the heavy lifting in a moment. But really what this means is a much simplified workflow for an agent and the manager. We're helping to kind of de-skill lots of what their job entails. So you've got all these different conversations happening between customers, owners, suppliers, even IoT devices, all being dealt with and handled by one core digital assistant that is basically the heart of every building, whether it's a commercial space, again, residential space, whatever it is. So this digital assistant is then able to have complete oversight of all these conversations that are happening across entire portfolios as well. And obviously, I'll come on to how this impacts upon the efficiency and to give you some examples as well. So as you can see here in this particular diagram, the agent or the manager themselves is having a very streamlined communications flow, purely because the digital assistant is doing all that heavy lifting. If you look at where we fit, I guess we see AI property managers as kind of really bridging the gap between CRMs and single function apps, like I walked through a minute ago, and the human property manager. So again, taking the best parts of both of those and bundling it up into a way that not removes human property managers, because we're often asked, do we see Porter or AI replacing property managers? The answer is that if you look at the space, I think people are expecting higher standards when it comes to the built environment, when it comes to their homes, when it comes to whatever. They're expecting better service levels. But also certainly in London, we're seeing a tip towards a renter city. More and more people are renting in residential office spaces with the likes of WeWork, etc. What we're seeing is a raising of expectations of service levels, as I mentioned. So we're seeing the property managers are being asked to do much, much more in terms of volume of units and service levels. And really, we're just stepping in to fill that gap. If anything, I would say property management is likely to grow as an industry, even with the support of AI in the near future. So just to walk back here, this is Starship Technologies, but these guys do little delivery things for cities, AI, and it uses AI for image mapping. Just to give you an idea of AI, because I don't really know the technical level of the audience, but AI is pretty straightforward. There's two ways you can teach a robot to cross the street. You can either teach the robot to look left, look right, see oncoming car, do not cross, really hard code every single instruction in, or you can show a robot a million different videos of people crossing the street and let it learn that way. And that's the fundamental difference. It just enables us to make machines smart without having to code every single line ourselves and to let them literally learn from other behavior. So what does that mean for property management? I'm going to give you some tangible kind of use case examples now of how we see AI being used. First of all, it's worth just touching on data input. There's two ways that data can get into a system to manage property. There's people and there's sensors, as I mentioned before. Now, traditionally, as I said before, people, whether it's people in the buildings, etc., used to report issues. There's broken light, there's this kind of stuff, or the actual managers themselves would be inputting data into their CRMs to say, in 6 months' time, we need to do a maintenance check on all the lights in Unit 5, let's say. It's very reliant upon human input, and this obviously there's a lot of there's a lot of issues that crop up when you're so reliant upon human data input. Sensors are changing that. What we're seeing, even in the residential space, we're seeing sensors being deployed in boilers to automatically detect when a boiler is broken, and way ahead of time, before any tenant even realizes that the water's not warming up, a contractor's already been sent out, deployed, and has fixed the problem. So even just putting sensors in buildings is removing a whole lot of time that the property managers used to spend dealing with tenants, etc. So we are seeing huge improvements in data input, and obviously AI plays its part in those sensors to be able to detect, changes in temperature and all those algorithms that sit behind that as well. But kind of once you've got the data coming in, so whether it's people being reported stuff or people questions about the lease, all that kind of, whether it's landlords asking you to look after their property, all that kind of stuff then needs to be triaged and troubleshooted. So we use at AskPorter, we use AI. So we have NLP models to help triage and troubleshoot these particular inbound issues and inquiries. Now, how that works, just very quick top line, because I'm conscious of time. We have about 2 million different utterances. So these are, an utterance is basically someone saying, hey, I've got a broken light bulb, or hey, there's a dead rat in the hallway, or hey, it's too cold in my office. All these different things. We have about 2 million of those, and they're growing very, very rapidly. What we do to each one of those, we categorize it to an intent, and we have over 55 intents. So what an intent looks like, if I'm saying the words, my boiler is broken, that intent would be, it's essentially the water's not getting warm, right? So that's an incredibly challenging job, if I'm honest. Property maintenance, there is so much that can go wrong with buildings. It's almost not worth me talking about for too long, but literally anything. It could be a disturbance in the street. It could be someone's broken a window. It could be there are police outside. The next door neighbors are making noise. The office down the road is abusive. There's an awful lot of things. So first of all, we've got an awful lot of models built into our digital assistant that is able to work out what exactly the issue is. Now, what this means, I should caveat that once we've worked out what the issue is, we've troubleshooted it, Porter has decided that this is a real issue, that then comes through to our single dashboard for property managers. Now, this is where they can see everything, have a complete overview of everything that's going on in their portfolios. And it's Porter's job to really help classify and prioritize these. So we use AI to essentially, once these issues come in, whether it is from an IoT device, whether it is from a human, whoever it's for, we classify and then we prioritize these particular inbound activities. So for example, you can see here the toilet's leaking. We've broken that utterance down into its component parts. We know, right, it's a maintenance issue, it's a toilet, and it's a leak. We've tagged it. Now what we're able to do is we're able to prioritize that in terms of, is this a high priority issue? Is this a low priority issue? Okay, well, based on the prioritization of this particular issue or activity, we're able to rank its place in the to-do list, essentially, of a property manager. In many cases, obviously, we're able to automatically action that. So in this case, it's a priority, it's probably a priority 2 issue, the toilet's leaking. Depending on the size of the leak, obviously, we'd be troubleshooting. We'll be asking questions, how big, how bad is the leak, etc. But then Porter can also automatically action that to a contractor. So again, just to give you an idea of the amount of time that we can save from the very beginning to the very resolution of the job, we're looking at about 90% of that time saving. Typically that can equate, average dealing end-to-end in issues is about 2 hours, maybe just slightly over. We can take that down to about, in some cases 2 minutes, depending on the complexity of the issue. And the real cool stuff is what we're starting to do now. We're starting to really leverage AI to improve resource optimization across portfolios. So what that means is we're actually working with a couple of councils. I can't say any names right now after this, but we've got clients like we've got clients from LSL, CBRE, some of the largest property management companies in the UK, but also we're now working with Weissag, which is Germany's largest FM company, to help them optimize resources. Now, it's a little bit like the Uber model, but let's say we've now done the job. So AI has now done the job of classifying what the issue is. We've also prioritized it. What we can now do is then assign that to a contractor, but assign it to a contractor in a very smart way. So much like Deliveroo optimizes their delivery drivers to be at a restaurant exactly 1 to 2 minutes before the food is ready, rather than them hanging around for 10 minutes, that's what we're starting to see as the next level. I mean, we've now got one of the largest contractor and supplier networks on our system personally, but there are other companies out there doing, with equally large contractor bases. But what we feel the really exciting opportunity here is to shave off all those inefficiencies that exist when it comes to allocating human resource to jobs. So let's say you've got a roof leak in SW19, which is a postcode in London. So a certain area of London has a roof leak, but also relatively close to there's a couple of tiles that are loose in a hospital just up the road. And typically what would happen is those two would be siloed jobs. There'd be a call out fee for each one of those. But if we can start to bracket them up so if we can use AI to assign the skill set, so let's say roofing in this case, the location of that particular issue, the priority, so does it need to be done now or can it wait until another job might spring up in the area? All this kind of stuff goes into one. We're starting to develop some really cool models around how we can automatically assign and dispatch this work, and reducing travel time, really optimizing efficiencies for councils and for large facilities. And I think really this is the ultimate goal of AI across the board, really, is to be able to not waste human resources rather than take jobs. It's about not wasting human resources on jobs that can be done by machine, and really save humans for doing qualitative good stuff that people really appreciate. So to recap, we kind of see AI being pretty fundamental in property management in the future. In fact, we see AI as likely to be taking about 90% of the job of a property or facility manager, irrespective of what asset class, whether it's commercial property, residential, etc. We're already seeing case studies where we can reduce the cost of management by up to 80%, certainly for the maintenance piece. In terms of customer experience, I think it's not unreasonable to assume, in the next few years that if you move into a new house and you're renting, you will also get a concierge with that to help you with your day-to-day lives, to help you get jobs done in and around the house. Same with office buildings, same with any property that you enter into. So really enhancing that customer experience as well. But really the cool thing, I think, moving forward is to provide 360-degree knowledge of everything that happens in built environments, in physical spaces, to really ensure that people are where they need to be in order to get jobs done and to drive efficiencies, to make sure that time is not being wasted traveling to and from jobs, and everything is being optimized correctly and prioritized correctly. To give an example, I spoke to one of our social housing clients. There was one situation where a woman was without hot water for 2 weeks in the middle of winter. and that just wouldn't happen with AI. It's not. It gets the job done right. It's not going to make those same mistakes. So I think there's a real opportunity here to reduce cost and improve customer service using AI in property management. So I hope that was clear. I think I'm coming up to the end of my time. I appreciate that was all very quick. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. Yeah, so Nicholas, we are able to manage multiple languages. We have German live at the moment. We have, so a little bit of context around that. We can manage in any language. So Porter is a digital assistant, is able to do any language. Our backend management platform is also available in any language. The quality of translation differs. So German, for example, we've actually had a natural German speaker translate some of the responses, all the responses. So that feels very, very natural. If you look at Mandarin, for example, we just use a straight up Google Translate. It's pretty good, but some of the phrasing is a little bit off. But we are working to improve that. But you know what, it does the job. So we are live on a couple of student housing developments in the UK. There are an awful lot of Chinese students, and they actually typically engage through WeChat, but we're able to deal with those pretty well, actually. Any other questions? Is there anything I went through too fast, or anything you want to dive into? Yeah. So Emma, so we've I'll get too many details, but so we have an open API. So we work with a number of different software platforms in order to bring in some of this information in terms of kind of live dashboard and reporting. Every single one of our tags on our system. So whether it's, you know, like in that example I had there, toilet leak, but also payments, but also information from other systems we can automatically tag and give reports on. So yeah, that's something that we're very much working on, and we want to be able to bring in as much data into our platform as possible. Again, we have an open API, but what we do find is lots of these older CRMs, don't want to name any names, but CAFM systems, etc., often have very clunky APIs and poor data standards generally across the board. Social housing has almost no data standards, and it makes it incredibly hard given the fragmentation. There's a high level of fragmentation of different systems in the industry, which is again the need for some kind of data standard or more universal platform. Perhaps that's us, perhaps that's someone else that can start to aggregate and pull in this data across the board. There are some great other great software companies that are just doing the report based piece. So they're pulling in as many data points as possible from all these different CRM, CAFM systems, etc. That just provide analytics report. But we kind of want to do something a little bit more than that. We want to be able to pull that data in and then action that as well. So really, actually, you know, data is all very good, reporting is all very good, and it's all useful. But actually, to be able to action and improve and drive efficiency across portfolios automatically is something we're very much interested in. So yes, we are always open to an integration, but our team's just it's prioritization matter for us. I think that's pretty much coming up to time anyway. If there's any last questions, just shout.
Hey, I think that was it. Thank you so much.
Cool.
Very interesting.
No worries. Cool. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you
Uh,
for watching, and thank you for taking the time, Tom. It's great.
yeah.
And hopefully till next time.
No worries. And if anyone's got any question, you can just email me at the email address there, tom@askporter.com.